New World by Rodrigo and Gabriela. It is their seventh studio album released on April 21st, 2023. Rodrigo and Gabriela are a Mexican acoustic guitar duo taking heavy influences from flamenco, rock, and metal. So, Eric,
Mhm.
your thoughts on this album? Because this is definitely not a mainstream release,
Yes.
but it is the seventh studio
I
album. So they're sort of indie, sort of.
I I have never heard of these guys before,
Mm.
ever. When you put this on, I actually thought it was actually that Rodrigo girl.
Oh, Olivia
What's her
Rodrigo.
name? Yeah, Olivia Rod. I thought it was like Rodrigo and another artist like that did
Oh,
a
okay.
collab,
Okay,
and I
okay.
was like, "Oh, this is kind of neat." So when I first listened to it, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Just because I had something visioned in my head, but that was my own, uh, never judge a book by its cover. But I totally like overthought that. Um, so when I listened to it, I was like, "This is not
Pop
this
music.
girl, Olivia Rodrigo." So I had to take a little break and then listen to it again. I quite enjoyed it. I feel like this album is not going to be for everybody,
Mm.
just because most like it's pretty much instrumental. And I mean, I thought it was cool. Like I love flamenco style guitar playing. I really respect it. And just some of the stuff that they play in this album is very difficult to play on clean tones,
Mm.
um, especially in like the time signatures, the tempo that they're playing at. Uh, but like I also feel like I enjoyed it, but I feel like for the common listener, it would be easily forgettable. Like I don't think I would ever recommend being like, hey, if you like Latin music, go check out this band, you'll like it. I feel like most generic people want lyrics,
Yeah.
um, or the
Most
common folk
most generic
want something to
people.
sing along to. No,
Most
I didn't mean that as a
generic people
controversial statement.
want lyrics.
Okay,
You,
okay,
you
easy.
just called a bunch of people generic.
Generic people. Okay, I meant the common listeners are gonna want like the hooks to sing along to. God damn it! Always there to keep me humble, Kev. Always there to keep me humble. Um, yeah, I just feel like it's not going to be for those people. But if you're a musician, I feel like it's like, hey, if you like Spanish music, you should check out this band. They're really good, and I have been listening to a lot more other stuff other than this album. Um, Not like doing a deep dive of their albums because I'm sure somebody, a super fan, might say like, "Oh, I think this is their better album." I've been just kind of listening to their hits,
Mhm.
and I've enjoyed what I've listened to so far. But I mean, like this is perfect music to put on in the background and gets kind of stuff done, like productivity music. But I actually quite enjoyed it. Like it was almost like that calm feel, it almost like you could escape into like a Spanish-esque kind of like
Mhm.
villa in Spain or Mexico or something, right?
Yeah. But also it wasn't like that. It didn't feel old school. It felt very modern. There were
Mhm.
like a lot of
Very modern.
like guitar effects that they used and a lot of modern
Mhm.
production techniques that they had on this album. So, um I yeah, the problem with this, I've seen them live before. That's sort of like why I picked up on this cuz
Mhm.
like I do enjoy like their live shows, but this album definitely, their musicianship is like on another level. Like they're so talented and like what they can
Mhm.
play, but there wasn't a hook on this album. There was no like
Yeah.
standout song where I was like, "Oh, that's the hit single or that's the one that I want to put on repeat for like hours." It sort of just, I hit play and then I got to the end and I just like repeated the album again. There wasn't
Mhm.
like track 6. I need to listen, like what just happened there. I need to like rewind and like play it again, or I didn't feel like any of these songs were like standout songs. So that was like my biggest problem with this album, as like
Mhm.
And I agree with you. It was very good background music. Like you could just put it on and it's just like so nice to listen to. But there just wasn't like a hook on this one,
Mhm.
which is like unfortunate because they're super talented.
And they are very talented. And I again, when I thought it was Olivia Rodrigo, I was like, oh, this is gonna be an interesting. I don't know who this Gabriela person is, but must be somebody famous. And like anyways, um, I do agree. There is nothing that's very memorable about this album that I'm just
Mm,
like, oh, that song
yeah.
is sick. Like you got to check this out. Uh, in terms of like what I'm talking about, how like it's a good album for musicians who are just like into that clean kind of technical playing. Um, like I would recommend listening to this band
Hmm.
for sure. Maybe this album, like I do want to like listen to more of their music, but uh, yeah, it just yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'm trying
It
to
was like
yeah.
it was just good. There wasn't anything to complain about on this album. It just there wasn't anything that I would say, oh, you yeah, as you said, you don't you I wouldn't recommend a specific song to anyone because it's like they all sort of were nice.
Yeah, and you know what? I would recommend going to see these guys live.
Hmm.
Probably. Like I don't know how your experience was, but I feel like they would put on like a good like entertaining show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're pretty good. I feel like they would be better in like a smaller venue. I sort of saw them in a stadium opening. I think they were an
Mhm.
opening act, but the live show is really fun.
Like I'm picturing like a live scenario, like a bar or a pub.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
that'd be
that
really
would be
cool.
like perfect for these guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That'd be really cool. Um, okay, let's wrap this one up. Final thoughts, ratings for this album.
I mean, I'm intrigued to go listen to their other stuff, which I have been. But this album as a whole, like if I and I didn't mean that as a negative context, but if I am to recommend this to the generic quotes in quotes, I would probably not recommend listening to these guys.
Yeah.
But however, I did enjoy the album for what it was, so I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
Ooh, yeah. For me, I'm actually right there with you. 6 out of 10. Just
Mhm,
because, like, yeah, there wasn't anything that I had to go back and listen to. There was
mhm.
never that moment on this album. But there was never anything like that's terrible or I'm bored of this album. There was never that moment either.
Yeah.
So yeah, 6 out of 10 for me also on that one. All right, perfect. So that was In Between Thoughts, a New World by Rodrigo and Gabriela. For those of you following along with us every single week, the album that we are going to be discussing for next week. And because we sort of ran out of new albums, there wasn't a new album for this week. So we're going to go back a few months. But it is Miley Cyrus's brand new album, Endless Summer Vacation, which I don't know. It's been making the rounds on billboards. So I'm interested to see what this album is gonna be like.
You know what? I'm not gonna say anything else that's controversial, so I'm just gonna hold my thoughts. I'm holding my thoughts.
That flower song is very disco-y, I would say.
Yeah, it's about that song, but that's not what I was gonna talk about.
It's very generic, I would say. But
Yeah.
anyways, we'll
Mhm.
discuss Endless Summer Vacation by Miley Cyrus next week. Alrighty. So, ooh, this is not lined up again. Here we go. So we did have two controversial statements for this week. I said Brian Wilson is not as good as AI, which is quite blasphemous, but might be true. And Eric did say that most generic people want lyrics in their music. So insulting like 90% of all music listeners.
I didn't mean that. I love you guys. I'm just talking. I'm just looking out for you. Like I don't want you to waste your time. You know, like I know what you guys want. I
You
know what you
generic
guys
people,
want.
you.
So no, not at all. I feel like when we make it to a level of fame, we're gonna have T-shirts with shit that I say on them, and people are gonna be around being like, "Yeah, I support this idiot, this big idiot."
um.
So,
Anyways,
mm,
that's basically it. That's the podcast. This is the Crossroads Music Podcast here on twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast every Monday at 10 p.m. ET, 7 p.m. PT. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, all those places where you get your podcast. I think that's about it. I think the only conclusion we came to this week is that AI is going to take over the world, and our copyright laws are terrible. And
yeah, and that we're just a bunch of boomers, or at least I am.
yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to end this thing. So thanks everyone
Mhm.
for tuning in, and we will catch you all next time.